Hi doctors, this is an interesting 12 aligner case. This patient has an anterior crossbite and some heavy anterior occlusion, which is preventing her from having normal occlusion on her right side. So the goal is to correct the anterior open bite, and that is done simply by buccally tipping the uppers and lingually tipping the lowers. She does have some triangular spaces here, and she is a little bit class 3, so doing some anterior IPR to make sure that we relieve the anterior interferences is the most important thing to do here and should be easy to execute. One other thing I wanted to point out is this is one of the less common cases where I will put bite ramps on the laterals and not on the centrals. So I generally put the bite ramps on the centrals so that I have more lingual surface area on the laterals because if they need to rotate, and that happens more commonly. However, in this case it's the centrals that need to rotate and the laterals are really just moving buccal lingual, so those are available to place the bite ramps on. Now if they were across all 4 anterior teeth, that would probably be fine too, but just adding in a little other layer of predictability. The other thing that's a little bit different with this case is the amount of extrusion, and that is really needed just to try to get this into a better occlusal contact, which is why I have the retention attachment flipped around with the bevel to the gingiva. Now this is not an exact science, but since there is not an extrusion attachment designed for premolars, this is a conventional attachment that is made to look more like a extrusion attachment, a optimized extrusion attachment. And this case is done in 12 aligners because it starts off with some lower spacing, and the doctor told me that actually some of these contacts are light to start off with. Even though we're performing some IPR, that IPR is creating space, so it is possible that some of these final contacts might be light at the end. So we have a lower C chain planned in. So this is an additional aligners that are meant to overcorrect whenever there are spacing planned or being corrected. Now there are 3 generally added to the end of active aligners, but not all 3 may be needed. As you can see that they really put a big hug on those anterior teeth. So with the amount of overjet that's created on this ClinCheck, she's very likely to not need any of these additional aligners, but they're here just in case because of this is a beginning spacing case, and that's a good thing to have at the end just to be using them with caution. The other thing that I wanted to point out is that there's really not many other occlusal spaces or occlusal contacts planned in at the finish, and that's because we are eliminating an anterior interference. So once these interferences are removed, then we can suppose that the rest of the posterior teeth will be able to come together more naturally. So this still may create or need some occlusal equilibration or possibly some additional aligners just to do some buccal lingual tipping if needed to get the teeth into better final occlusal contact. But the ClinCheck cannot predict how the jaws are going to come together accurately when we are eliminating interferences. So this, we leave no interferences and no occlusal contact, knowing that the patient will be able to bite down, and therefore these teeth all will be in contact at the end.